There are moments when life doesn't knock on the door, it kicks it down. Moments when you wake up tired before the day even starts, when your heart feels heavy for reasons you can't fully explain, when you're doing everything you know how to do and still wondering, why is this so hard? If that's you right now, don't turn away, lean in. Because this message is for the person who's smiling in public and bleeding in private, for the one who keeps showing up even when hope feels expensive, for the one who's been strong for so long that weakness feels like failure. Let me tell you something you need to hear. Hard seasons are not punishment. They are preparation. Life doesn't squeeze you to break you. It squeezes you to reveal what's already inside you. Pressure doesn't create character. It exposes it. And what's inside you is more powerful than what's coming against you. You might feel behind, overlooked, tired, even defeated. But hear me clearly. You are not done. Not even close. Some of the most powerful chapters of your life will be written when you feel the weakest. When nobody is clapping, when nobody is calling, when the plan fell apart and the prayers feel unanswered. That's when growth is happening in silence. That's when discipline is being forged. That's when faith stops being talk and starts being action. So if life feels hard right now, don't quit. Don't fold. Don't give up on yourself. This moment is not here to bury you, it's here to build you. There are people who smile when you hurt, but they never let the smile show. They lean in close, lower their voice, and wrap their curiosity in the language of care. They say they're worried about you. They ask questions that sound supportive, but somehow every question digs a little deeper into the wound. And if you're honest with yourself, you can feel it. Something is off. Their concern feels heavy, not healing. Their presence doesn't lift you, it drains you. Because what they're really doing is studying your pain, not to help you heal, but to feel better about their own lives. Your struggle becomes their secret relief. Your fall becomes their quiet validation that they're doing okay. And the danger is this: if you don't recognize it, you'll keep opening your heart to people who are secretly clapping when you bleed. They don't want details so they can pray for you. They want details so they can replay your pain later. They nod slowly, act shocked, say all the right things, but inside there's a subtle satisfaction. It reassures them that life hasn't singled them out, that someone else is hurting worse, that someone else didn't make it. And they'll never admit it, not even to themselves. That's why they disguise it as concern, because if they were honest, they'd have to face something ugly within. So instead, they hide behind sympathy, asking just enough to look caring while feeding on your vulnerability. And every time you walk away from those conversations feeling smaller, weaker, or more exposed, that's your spirit warning you. Not everyone who asks about your pain wants to help carry it. These people are rarely obvious enemies. They're often close, familiar. Sometimes they've known you for years. They watched you rise and it made them uncomfortable. Your growth challenged their excuses. Your discipline reminded them of their laziness. So when life finally hits you, they show up early. Not to lift you, but to witness the fall. And they'll tell themselves they're being supportive. They'll convince others too, but pay attention. They never offer solutions, only sympathy. They never empower you, only pity you. Because pity keeps you small, and small makes them comfortable. When you start to recover, they disappear. When you start to win again, their concern fades. That alone tells you everything you need to know. There's a reason some people only check on you when you're down. Your pain makes them feel relevant. It gives them a role, the good listener, the caring friend. But when you're strong, focused, and moving forward, they feel unnecessary. So subconsciously, they prefer you broken. They prefer you uncertain. They prefer you doubting yourself. Because your confidence exposes their fear. Your healing threatens their position. And this is why you must be careful who you bleed in front of. Vulnerability is powerful, but only when it's shared with people who want to see you rise, not people who need you to stay low. They'll often say things like, "I knew this would happen," or "I was worried about this path you chose." It sounds wise, it sounds protective, but what it really is judgment wearing a soft voice. Instead of helping you rebuild, they rewrite your story to make your pain seem inevitable. And if you accept that narrative, you start doubting your decisions, your instincts, your calling. That's how celebration of your pain turns dangerous. It doesn't just observe your suffering, it reshapes your self-belief. It slowly convinces you that struggle means you were wrong to try, that failure means you should stop. And that is the quiet sabotage you must learn to recognize. Understand this clearly. Real concern pushes you forward. Fake concern keeps you stuck. Real concern challenges you to stand back up, even when it's uncomfortable. Fake concern encourages you to sit in your sorrow, to talk about it endlessly, to relive it instead of outgrowing it. And the more you talk, the more power they feel. That's why some people always want updates on your pain, but never celebrate your progress. They're invested in your wounds, not your recovery. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You don't owe everyone access to your hard moments. Silence is not weakness, sometimes it's wisdom. Protecting your story is not arrogance, it's self-respect. When life feels hard, you must choose your circle with intention. Share your struggles with people who speak strength into you, not spectators who feed on your fragility. Because the wrong audience can turn a temporary setback into a permanent mindset. But mindset and the right audience can help you rise faster than you ever imagined. Some of the strongest moves you'll ever make will be quiet ones, pulling back, saying less, observing more. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every "I'm just checking on you" deserves full access. Watch patterns, not words. Watch who shows up when you're rebuilding, not just when you're broken. Watch who claps when you heal, not who leans in when you hurt. That awareness alone will change your life. When you stop feeding people your pain, you starve their hidden intentions. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You reclaim your energy. You stop rehearsing your wounds. You stop explaining your struggle. You start focusing on healing, on discipline, on growth. And the people who were secretly celebrating your pain will slowly fade out of your life because there's nothing left for them to consume. So hear this, and hear it well. Not everyone who sounds concerned is on your side. Protect your heart. Guard your story. Heal in private if you must. Rise anyway. And remember, the same people who watched you fall in silence will be forced to watch you stand in strength. There are people who don't tell you to stop because they hate you. They tell you to stop because your growth scares them. They wrap their fear in concern and call it wisdom. They say things like, "I just don't want you to get hurt," or "I'm only saying this because I care." And if you're not careful, you'll mistake their anxiety for love. But listen closely. Real protection doesn't cage you. These people don't want you stretching, risking, or evolving. They want you safe, predictable, and close enough to never outgrow them. So they speak caution into your courage. They plant doubt where vision once lived. And slowly, if you allow it, you begin shrinking your dreams to keep their comfort intact. They'll remind you of every worst-case scenario, every past failure, every reason it might not work. And they'll call it realism, but what they're really doing is projecting their limits onto your potential. They couldn't do it, so they don't believe you can. They didn't survive the risk, so they want you to avoid it altogether. And the tragedy is this: they may genuinely think they're helping. Fear often believes it's wisdom, but wisdom doesn't paralyze you, it equips you. If every conversation with someone leaves you doubting your calling instead of strengthening your resolve, that's not protection, that's quiet sabotage. These people often show up when you're about to level up, when you've made a decision to change, to step into something bigger, to demand more from life. Suddenly, they have opinions. Suddenly, they're worried. Suddenly, they see danger everywhere. But notice this: they were never this vocal when you were settling, when you were stuck, when you were comfortable but unfulfilled. Your stagnation didn't alarm them. Your growth does. Because growth creates distance. Growth creates contrast. Growth forces people to confront what they avoided in themselves. They'll say you're changing, as if that's an accusation, as if growth is betrayal, as if becoming more disciplined, more focused, more ambitious is somehow a threat. And to them it is. Because if you change, the old dynamics die. The old roles disappear. They can no longer relate to you the same way. So instead of evolving with you, they try to anchor you to who you used to be. Not because that version was better, but because it was familiar. Understand this, people who truly care about you may worry, but they won't weaken you. They'll challenge you to prepare, not persuade you to quit. They'll ask, how can you do this wisely? Not, why are you doing this at all? They'll help you sharpen your skills, not dull your dreams. Anyone who consistently talks you out of becoming more is not guarding your heart. They're guarding their comfort. Sometimes the most dangerous discouragement comes softly. It comes through gentle voices, friendly advice, familiar faces. That's why it's so easy to accept. But measure the fruit. Are you becoming braver, stronger, more disciplined after these conversations? Or more hesitant, fearful, and small? Your body knows. Your spirit knows. Pay attention to that tightening in your chest when you're talked out of what you know you're called to do. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need approval to evolve. And you don't need consensus to obey what's burning inside you. Growth is lonely at first. That's the price of becoming. Not everyone can come with you, and not everyone is meant to. Some people are assigned to a season, not a lifetime. And when you outgrow the season, their concern becomes resistance. Let this sink in. Staying the same to keep others comfortable is a slow form of self-betrayal. Every time you silence your ambition to ease someone else's fear, you teach yourself not to trust your own vision. And over time, that does more damage than any risk ever could. You weren't created to live a life approved by everyone. You were created to live a life aligned with purpose. So when someone tells you to slow down, ask yourself why. When someone urges you to stay small, ask yourself who benefits. Protection that costs you your potential is not protection at all. It's fear dressed up as love. And you must learn to tell the difference. Choose voices that stretch you. Choose people who expect more from you, not less. Choose environments that demand growth, not comfort. Because the same people who warned you not to rise will later ask how you did it. And by then you'll understand. They were never trying to save you. They were trying to keep you close. There are people who clap for you, but their hands are stiff. Their smiles don't reach their eyes. They say they're proud, yet something in the room shifts when you succeed. You feel it before you understand it. The energy changes, the conversation shortens, the excitement cools. These are the ones who tell you they're rooting for you, but silently start measuring themselves against you. Your progress doesn't inspire them, it threatens them. Every time you try, you fail. The yoni is cool. Your progress doesn't inspire them, it threatens them. And instead of dealing with that insecurity honestly, they turn your journey into a quiet competition. They keep score. They compare timelines. They watch your steps, not to learn, but to see if you stumble. They'll support you loudly when you're behind them, but grow strangely distant when you pull ahead. Suddenly your wins are luck. Your discipline is obsession. Your focus is doing too much. They don't say it directly, but it leaks out in tone and jokes and backhanded compliments. Must be nice, they'll say. Or I guess not everyone has real responsibilities. That's not encouragement. That's resentment wearing a friendly face. And if you internalize it, you'll start dimming your light to keep the peace, shrinking your ambition so no one feels uncomfortable around your shine. These people often mirror you. When you start improving, they suddenly announce similar goals. When you commit to growth, they rush to prove they're doing just as well, sometimes better, but it's never peaceful, it's frantic. Because it's not about purpose, it's about comparison. And comparison steals joy. It turns your unique path into a race that was never meant to be run. The danger isn't their competition. It's when you let it pull you out of alignment with who you're becoming. True supporters don't rush to match you. They celebrate you. They don't feel diminished by your success. They feel encouraged by it. But competitors disguised as friends feel exposed by your progress. Your discipline reflects their inconsistency. Your growth highlights their excuses. So instead of dealing with themselves, they try to level the field by subtly pulling you down. Not aggressively, quietly, slowly. Over time, they'll ask questions that sound curious but feel invasive. How much did that really cost? Are you sure that's sustainable? What happens if it all falls apart? Support doesn't plant fear. Support doesn't hope for collapse so the scoreboard resets, but competition does. And the more you win, the more uncomfortable they become. That's why some people only like you when you're struggling, because struggle keeps things even. You have to understand this clearly. Not everyone running beside you is running with you. Some are watching for the moment you slow down so they can feel ahead again. And if you're not aware, you'll waste energy explaining yourself, defending your progress, or minimizing your achievements to keep relationships intact. But real growth requires honesty, not performance. You don't owe anyone smallness. There's nothing wrong with healthy competition. But this isn't that. This is insecurity masked as friendship. This is comparison pretending to be connection. And once you see it, you must respond with boundaries, not bitterness. You don't need to confront everyone. Sometimes the most powerful move is to keep moving forward without inviting commentary. Stop sharing every win with people who secretly wish they were you. Stop explaining your pace to people committed to their comfort. Let your consistency speak. Let your results talk. The right people won't compete with you. They'll collaborate with you, learn from you, and cheer without calculating what it means for them. As you rise, your circle will change. Not because you think you're better, but because your frequency no longer matches comparison. Growth demands maturity, and maturity understands this. Someone else's insecurity is not your responsibility, so keep going. Win clean, win honestly, win without apology. The people who are competing instead of supporting will eventually reveal themselves, and when they do, don't slow down. You're not here to run someone else's race. You're here to finish yours. There are people who stay close to you not because they believe in you, but because your weakness gives them purpose. As long as you're struggling, they have a role. As long as you're unsure, they feel needed. They call it loyalty. They say things like, I'm always here for you, or you know you can't do this without me. And if you're not careful, you'll start believing that dependence is connection. But real loyalty doesn't need you broken to feel important. Real loyalty wants you strong, even if it means you no longer need them the same way. These people thrive when you doubt yourself. Your confusion gives them authority. Your fear gives them control. They become the advisor, the fixer, the translator of your own life. And slowly, without noticing, you stop trusting your instincts. You start checking with them before making decisions. You shrink your confidence because it makes them feel valuable. That's not support. That's quiet control. Loyalty that collapses when you gain independence was never loyalty at all. They'll remind you of who you were at your lowest. Not to honor your resilience, but to keep you tied to that version. Remember when you couldn't even, they'll say, laughing softly. But it's not encouragement, it's anchoring. They need you to remember your weakness because it keeps the hierarchy intact. As long as you see yourself as fragile, they get to stay necessary. And anyone who needs you to stay weak so they can feel strong is not on your side. These people often resist your healing in subtle ways. They question your growth. They downplay your progress. They say you're changing too fast or forgetting where you came from. But healing always looks threatening to those who built their identity around your pain. When you stop needing saving, their role disappears. So they cling tighter, masking insecurity as devotion. True loyalty celebrates your independence. It doesn't fear it. Someone who genuinely cares about you wants you confident enough to stand alone, not dependent enough to stay attached. They don't compete with your strength. They contribute to it. They don't remind you of your weakness. They remind you of your capacity. Anything less is self-serving. You must learn this. Needing someone is not the same as loving them, and someone needing you weak is not loving you either. Love wants growth. Control wants comfort. And the line between the two becomes clear when you start getting stronger. As you rise, some people will feel abandoned even though you didn't leave them. You just outgrew the version of yourself they benefited from. And that's not betrayal, that's evolution. You are allowed to become someone who no longer needs permission, reassurance, or rescuing. So break the agreement that says you must stay small to keep relationships intact. You don't owe anyone your weakness. You don't owe anyone your confusion. Your strength is not disloyalty. Your healing is not arrogance. And your independence is not abandonment. Let those who truly love you adjust to your growth. And let those who needed you weak fall away. Because loyalty that survives your strength is the only loyalty worth keeping. There are people who listen to your dreams with crossed arms and cautious eyes. They don't laugh outright, but they don't lean in either. They nod slowly, then begin listing reasons it might not work. They call it being realistic. They say they're just trying to keep you grounded. But what they're really doing is reacting to the threat your potential represents. Because when someone sees what you could become, they also see what they chose not to pursue in themselves. And that realization is uncomfortable. So instead of facing it, they shrink the vision. They'll tell you the timing isn't right, that the market is tough, that people like you don't usually make it. They'll dress limitation up as logic. And if you're not careful, you'll accept their fear as fact. But realism that ignores possibility is not wisdom, it's resignation. It's the voice of someone who stopped believing long ago and wants company in their caution. These people often pride themselves on being practical. They warn you about disappointment as if disappointment is worse than regret. But the truth is, regret lasts longer, pain fades, failure teaches. But never trying leaves a quiet ache that doesn't go away. And when they push you towards safety over purpose, they're not protecting you from pain. They're protecting themselves from being challenged by your courage. Notice how their realism only activates around big dreams. They don't warn you about staying stuck. They don't caution you about settling. They don't analyze the risks of living unfulfilled. Their logic is selective. It appears when ambition shows up, when growth demands faith, when vision requires courage. That's when they suddenly become experts in probability and limitation. People who fear your potential will often reference statistics, exceptions, and worst-case scenarios. But they'll never talk about the cost of staying where you are. They'll never measure the risk of never becoming who you were meant to be, because that conversation would force them to face their own choices. And that's a mirror they don't want to look into. Understand this, people who truly see you don't minimize your dreams. They help you prepare for them. They ask what it will take. They challenge you to build skill, discipline, and consistency. They don't say be realistic. They say be ready. There's a difference. One shuts doors, the other strengthens you to walk through them. You were not given vision by accident. Potential is not a tease. It's an invitation. And while not every idea will succeed, every idea pursued with intention will grow you. Playing small because someone else is uncomfortable with your ambition is the fastest way to betray yourself. So when someone tells you to lower your expectations, ask yourself whose expectations they're really talking about. When someone urges you to be realistic, ask whether they've ever been brave. You don't need permission to dream. You need commitment to work. Let realism sharpen you, not silence you. Let caution inform your strategy, not kill your calling. And remember this, the people who fear your potential today will one day call your success unexpected. But you'll know the truth, it was always there. They just couldn't see it because it scared them too much. By looking at the data collected above, gave 500 words closing of the speech in form of summary without mentioning number, with greeting words at the end, like, thank you, good bless you, etc. Life has a way of revealing people when pressure enters the room. When things get hard, masks fall, motives surface, and truth speaks without words. What you've heard today is not meant to make you suspicious of everyone, but aware of yourself. Aware of who has access to your heart, your vision, your weakness, and your growth. Because not every voice around you is meant to guide you forward. Some voices exist to keep you comfortable, dependent, doubtful, or small, and comfort is the enemy of becoming. Remember this clearly: concern that weakens you is not care. Support that competes with you is not love. Loyalty that needs you broken is not loyalty. Realism that kills your vision is not wisdom. As you rise, as you heal, as you discipline your mind and strengthen your spirit, some people will naturally fall away. Not because you abandon them, but because the version of you they were attached to no longer exists. That is not loss. That is alignment. Hard seasons are not here to punish you. They are here to refine you. They teach you discernment. They sharpen your boundaries. They show you the difference between those who walk with you and those who watch you. And once you see that difference, you must honor it with action. Protect your energy. Guard your dreams. Share your struggles with those who push you to stand, not those who ask you to sit in your pain. You are allowed to grow without apologizing. You are allowed to change without explaining. You are allowed to outgrow environments, conversations, and relationships that no longer serve the person you are becoming. Strength does not require permission. Healing does not need approval. And purpose does not wait for consensus. Keep your focus forward. Let discipline speak louder than doubt. Let consistency drown out criticism. The people meant to be in your next chapter will recognize your strength, not resent it. They will celebrate your progress, not compete with it. They will challenge you to rise, not beg you to stay small. Most importantly, don't let anyone convince you that your hard season defines you. It's shaping you, not labeling you. What you survive today will become the strength you stand on tomorrow. Walk with confidence, move with intention. Trust what's being built inside you, even when it's quiet. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and purpose over fear. May strength rise in you. May wisdom guide you. And may God bless you on every step of the journey ahead.